Good evening, traders. So it is Sunday, but I'm recording this for Monday, the 6th of March, 2023. It looks to be a very news-intensive week. Although there's much happening on the Monday, we can see that we have a lot of rate statements coming out from various other countries. So we've got Australia, Canada, the US, Japan, and obviously all of those, as I said in previous analysis weekly videos, is going to increase volatility. It's quite interesting when you look at the sort of global inflationary levels. We've got the UK at say 10% and the US is down towards 6%. So there's certain countries that really have issues that don't appear to be going away, and other countries seem to be sort of getting it under control. But I think one thing we can rest assured is that we're likely to have rate hikes. It's going to be a sort of a normal part of life. And so that's just something we need to be prepared for. So a lot of individuals, and this is also anecdotal, people making sure that they're keeping an eye on their costs. Hopefully one of the things we get back under control sooner rather than later. But of course, typically we're coming into summer now in the northern hemisphere would be, say, for example, the energy costs. But Sod's law that we're going into summer now and it shouldn't necessarily be as much of a factor. Okay, so for example, on Tuesday, we've got the RBA rate statement. We have got non-ADP values on Wednesday. The big one really is Friday, which is non-farm. That usually has the biggest normal average monthly volatility spikes. And so I'm always curious to see how that turns out. Really interesting to see here because over the last year or two, it's continually exceeded expectations with regards to unemployment or with regards to jobs. I'm just always curious. This is just more out of interest because it's quite historic at the moment, and I want to see what happens next. So the forecast here is about 206,000, and I just, are we going to be more than that or less than that? It's always interesting to watch. It's not really trading conditions because it's so unpredictable. It swings so wildly that most people just step aside. It's a bit of a bloodbath. You don't want to get into that. So that being said, or wrapping that up, let's go across and have a look at the charts. Okay, so having a look at the VIX, we can see it hasn't really spiked that much at all. So pretty much the same as it has been recently. There's no alarm bells going off there. If we have a look at, say, the dollar index, we can see here we have got this uptrend in place, but this 105.50 level really acting as resistance. And in fact, the last week was really interesting. We've sort of day up, day down, up, down, up, down, up. And overall, the weekly candle has remained relatively bearish, even though it just breached above the previous candle's high. So what does that really mean? In short, it means that we haven't had any clarity on the weekly charts as well as the monthly charts, which indicate the monthly chart indicates that it is likely it wants to continue higher. The weekly chart is looking as though it's potentially bearish, it wants to go lower. So we're getting that mixed result, and there was no resolution this last week. Looking at the euro against the US dollar, so euro dollar here, we've got a similar thing here. We've got pullback, we've got a bit of a bullish candle. Price is sort of sitting above the 1.05 level and above the 50-period moving average. Then if we have a look at the monthly, we've had a really nice retracement to a major resistance level as well as a fib level. And then we've also got this bearish candle forming there. We haven't really broken the low of it. So it's kind of, the market just really doesn't know what it wants to do. It's sort of creeped up a little bit. In fact, this week it's really interesting to me as well. A little bit of a bullish candle there. Just hinting at that dollar, whereas last week I spoke big picture about could we see a bit of 2022 creeping back. There was no real answer to that this coming week. I would say that it's not enough to conclude one way or another whether that is completely invalid. I would really need to see a follow through on this, and so there's just nothing on that yet. Looking at sterling has actually held up really well, really nice level of support here. Nice little bullish candle here. Bullish candles like this tend to result in a move to the upside. So I'm very curious to see if we're going to see a move this week pushing up sort of back up towards these highs. I want to see what happens. When you look at the weekly, it doesn't offer much clarity there as well. You can see prices sort of stuck below that 50-period moving average, and a lot of exhaustion creeping in on that, which basically, if we just remove these, you could just see a lot of exhaustion creeping in on that. And it's really struggling to get over that. I want to see it move and close any higher. If we look at it from a monthly perspective, we've been stuck in a range for the last 4 candles, or at least including the last 3 candles and including where we are now. So very curious to see what happens, but this tends to be a bit of a bullish signal. I want to see if that pushes a little bit higher. So let's look at the Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar, you can see, has just propped up by that support level at around about that 6725 level. And we've also got a bit of a bullish candle here. So will we see a bit of a push up into these previous lows? That would be interesting to me. Again, also very similar to a lot of the other majors here. We had this sort of bearish inside candle. And we pushed below it here, but we haven't really followed through on anything else. So that's what I'll be looking for this coming week, is to see if we get a bit of a move up, and do we finish the rest of the week lower. Often what happens when we get these kinds of contradictions, the monthly charts tend to play out in the way that we see it on that. So generally speaking, these should be following through on that. But it didn't this last week, and I want to see what happens. Kiwi dollar as well, a bit of a push up, and now we've got a couple of inside candles. I want to see which way it goes, and you can see there's some strong resistance at that level there around the 0.6450 level. Moving on to dollar yen. So dollar yen is generally creeping up. Same thing again here. It's a very similar type of structure to that dollar index, but it hasn't managed to follow through on that very much. It's still a little bit of a trend here, also showing some exhaustion. And in fact, interesting here is this looks much more like it's set to break to the downside. So we've got an indecision. Let's call it a bearish indecision candle. And actually, I would say a break of the low. This would see that starting to head lower. There's certainly, looking at this price action here, enough room for this head down towards 135, possibly even a little bit further down on that one. So I'm just going to mark that because I'm a little bit curious to see if we're going to get a bit of a move there. So we had a previous move here, we moved up. Now I want to see if that moves down. Looking at, say, dollar Swissy, we can see a very strong, nice momentum candle just pushing away from that level of resistance. And when we look at it here from a weekly perspective, this appears much more likely to head lower than to go up from this. The monthly, of course, doesn't say anything other than the fact that this level of resistance, if we could break above that, we'll see a move to the upside. So this looks more likely to me this coming week. And that would then hint a little bit more at a dollar weakness. And finishing off here with dollar CAD, which is pull back, produce that nice bullish candle. Again, also battling in this area. So just not a lot of clarity came through from last week. In the meantime, that ruble just continues to move up. There's a nice little flat level that looks more likely to just sort of dribble around that area. Not a lot happening. Euro Swissy has tapped into parity and come back. So that has achieved its goal, but doesn't look like it looked like it sort of failed at the end of that. And we've got that indecision here. So based off what I see here so far, unless we take another run at it this week, I think we're much more likely to see this ultimately stay below parity for the medium term, possibly for the next couple of months. Okay, let's move on to gold. Gold, really great week, a very nice engulfing candle within a general uptrend over here. So I'm very happy to see that happen. Which, again, the fact that gold is able to do what it was doing while some of the other markets are doing their own thing, just also, again, it just hints at the markets still being uncoupled. We're not seeing that unified move towards the dollar just yet. And we can see here it was really nice. This price action just taking off this area. So it was very nice to see it kind of tap down. We still haven't connected with 1800, and now it's pushing up, and that it's looking more and more bullish rather than bearish. So this week, I'd love to see a break above that and a return back up to 1900. Let's look at silver. Silver's still within a downtrend, but it's produced this bullish weekly candle. And actually, there's nothing stopping this now from heading back up above that $22. So let's see if we could do that. There will be some resistance here, but I could see some short-term day trading opportunities to the upside if it's going to follow through on that. So let's just have a look, and I'm just kind of going to mark this for myself. If nothing more, I want to see if we can make it back up to that. Whereas if we move on to some of the other metals, copper, not really offering too much clarity just there. I spoke about this, actually natural gas looking as though it was pretty much turning around and sort of mapped out a way in which it could turn around, but I would say it has already done that. We moved a little bit lower here, but now it's already broken up. It's broken above that level of resistance. So in fact, now the plan for me would sort of change to something along the lines of this, any kind of a pullback, and then a bit of a continuation would be great. So there could be something happening there. Still looks nice and bullish overall, and you can see where it's got that potential to head up back into these previous lows. So that looks nice and bullish there, and I'm curious to see if we see, there we go. So if we move across to crude oils that are still stuck within this range, clearly it's very obvious when you look at it on that weekly perspective, but it looks quite nice and bullish on the daily. So again, with that very nice bullish engulfing candle, this to me, again, looking for that to take a run up to the top of this range, but it's not free and clear yet. Excuse me. It is not free and clear yet, so need to see that really break outside of that range to the upside. And again, looking at it here, these are also some relatively nice, very brief trades, but this one is very interesting as well. It's a bullish candle just below a major level. That is not in itself a very strong signal, believe it or not. This in isolation is. It's an engulfing candle, but right below this level, it needs to get past that level. However, I'm going to mark that as a potential continuation signal to the upside. Okay, wheat. So wheat came down, had this bullish divergence, nice little attempt to change to the upside, and has come back down and broken it. So this is overall very much range-like behavior. It's within a trend, tries to change the trend, goes back to the other side of the trend. And so this is also, to me, I think is potentially likely to keep going sideways for now. So I can see it's come back below here and it looks like it wants to continue south, but this is a real weird jolt. It's an attempt at an inverse head and shoulders. Anyway, all kinds of stuff going on there. Coffee as well. I was waiting for a bit of a pullback into this level. From the weekly, it looks a little bit more obvious. It's coming back down into this level I want to see this week if we get a continuation. So let's just kind of move that down to there. And let's see if we get that move from that side to further up to see if it's going to do that. Right, what did we have here? Oh, it was this bearish weekly candle last week. It's managed to just break through, again, just following through on that one. So, and it's really interesting because the following one was an inside bullish candle and just continued to the upside, and this was a really nice flat level breakout. So that did not happen at all. That was very nice, but the continuation looks really good. So look at that, just general bullishness on sugar looking very good. It's now broken through $20. It hasn't been there going back to 2017. Look at that. Wow, very cool. Okay, but I suppose that's tied back predominantly to the inflation. Cotton has stayed within this pattern so far. It kind of breached through it originally. You may recall I had a bit of a line up here. It's broken through it, but now it's kind of staying above this level. So not much more here. Just going to keep an eye on it from a monthly perspective. Basically, it's just battling through resistance. This is one of the issues, just a general commentary here on why I love support resistance levels and higher timeframes, is that what I'm seeing on the lower timeframes looks like a different story to when you get a bit of perspective. When you look at it on the higher timeframes, you can see we're just battling with support and resistance. So the story changes if we could get back up above that, but it is interesting to see if this is going to form a bullish breakout pattern like we've seen in some of the other charts. Now moving on to the global indices. That's a really nice strong weekly candle off a level of support. There's just a mishmash going on here. And again, I just wanted to comment that that kind of thing hasn't really happened. The last time I sort of saw this type of behavior was potentially during Obama's 8th year, his final year there, their presidential election year. And a similar thing here just during Trump's period, which is just a lot of uncertainty. And therefore the markets are a little bit more up and down and a bit more all over the place. But this now looks relatively bullish. And it's not completely unreasonable to think that it's going to attempt to work its way back up to the top of this range. And the question really then is, what is it going to do after that? Not so much what's it going to do now if it's ranging, but is it going to stay within the range or is it going to push on? And here we have the S&P, very nice bullish setup here on the weekly of bullish candles. I want to mention this, just going to put a little bit of an arrow under that, so it's a nice one. I want to see if we could do this. It's almost forming a series of high lows back into that. And wouldn't it be interesting if that leads to a breakout on the weekly in this area, a breakout to the upside there? That would be pretty cool. So this week I'll be looking for continuations. Look, taking that gold, crude oil, and the indices into account, all of them look good to keep going to the upside. They are not hinting at a stronger dollar. They're hinting at a weaker dollar, and I find that fascinating. Okay, so now we've got the Nasdaq as well. Tech stocks on a nice little level of resistance, could be potentially be support. And so lovely to see if that can get back up over that one. But that looks good. It certainly looks like it's a setup to try. Look at this, is amazing. That's a little bit of a double bottom there, and a real battle between sellers up above this level and right below that level, right on that line 1900 on this one. So the Russell looking very good. That also looks like a nice bullish setup here. Wow. Okay, so it's gonna be interesting when I write the description for this. I'm gonna have to kind of mention that despite kind of last week's performance, that it appears it's setting up technically, signaling that it wants to keep going. So this one has kind of pulled back. It's also pulled back here into this level of resistance and taken off. So I think we can update this now to kind of point to that because of all of this little area over here that it looks somewhat bullish. We go to the DAX. The DAX has generally still finished up near the highs. You can see the battle happening at this level, on a nice little bullish candle closing up near the top. I love bullish candles that close near the top. That usually signifies continuation to the upside. And you can see here, even with the excuse me, with the ASX, that's pulled down. A bit of a bullish close on that candle, but not very bullish. I would have loved for it to close a little bit higher, but I think it's fair to say that if the others are going to climb higher, so is this. It's going to push there. The Nikkei, having a look at the Nikkei, very, very bullish. Look at that really strong gapped up, strong finish above the previous highs. That's an amazing finish considering how just considering what the alternative could have been. Let's have a look at Apple. So Apple, again, we had this area highlighted. It's pulled back into it, and I think we'll just leave that there. It looks like it's going to continue on. Bullish engulfing candle here, closing right near the highs. Beautiful. So usually it's not actually engulfing, I beg your pardon, but it does look as though it wants that it is set on continuing. Amazon, that's a really nice finish as well. So again, I think we can move this along. Let's put this over here and just kind of take it that way and see how this goes. Looks good. AT&T, a little bit of a head and shoulders pattern that I spoke about here. So have I got one of these things that's a bit like a head and shoulders pattern? Let me just see something here quickly. There we go. So lovely little head and shoulders tool. So let's move this up to there. So we'll do that kind of roughly as the left shoulder. Then we'll make that the head, bring that down, and then we'll make that the right shoulder and kind of do that. And that gives you a sense of that. So once you breach this, usually the kind of indication would move to the to the downside. And it's not a super bullish picture. I just find it interesting. I want to see if that plays out or if it doesn't. We've got that bearish divergence on the indicator that, you know, shifted into a downtrend. The weekly doesn't look super bullish. This is AT&T. It's been rejected off the top several times. Let's see if that heads lower. Usually, Head and Shoulders have like an 83.04 like probability win rate. It's like insane of 1-to-1, so it's all unfolding correctly instead of a probability win rate. Okay, we spoke about, this is ARC. This is certainly, to me, I think is a really nice bullish signal. So let's kind of move that across and go to that. That looks good. Let's go to Glencore. But it's stuck underneath this major level. But that's, look at that little monthly bullish candle within an uptrend, and look at that bullish candle. I think we could expect those to attempt to push higher. Tesco's, boom, just goes really nice uptrend. These are very cool little things. I would see that as a nice little bullish signal there. It's above the 50-period moving average. It's above resistance. It looks good. Okay, so wow, markets are just resilient. Let's put it that way. Level of support here. We've got a nice little bullish signal there. So this, I don't see this as coming down anytime soon. I think that's probably just a continuation to the upside there for now. I would have really, again, have liked to see that come down, close the gap, you know, kind of thing, and move it on, but I don't think that's going to happen. So we could just, let's just remove that. Berkshire Hathaway, looking good, looking good. Really nice bullish candle, but it's got resistance up ahead. But yeah, keep going, keep going. Coca-Cola will also probably, this is just a mess. You can see we're in a downtrend here, and that weekly chart looks like a nightmare. However, based on the bullishness of other stuff, I'd expect this to try and break its way out. So let's see if it could do that. But this otherwise is a mess. BP, looking good. I was looking for a pullback into this area. It looks like it's good to go from where it is now. I'm just going to remove that. Looks like it's kind of keen to sort of go where it is. Let's just kind of mark that and see how it goes from here. And ExxonMobil, there we go. Let's put a little one of there. These are good. Really nice little bullish sort of setup there. I want to see those head a little bit higher. Kind of just going to mark that base in there. It looks really cool. Expecting that. That looks really good. Nice little pullback. There's definite bearish divergence here. Usually in a situation like this, combined with what I'm seeing here, this area would start to act as resistance, which means let's just kind of go and put that in there and see if we ultimately get there. But it's going to battle. There's no doubt that this move up, bullish engulfing because it got knocked down, then it attempted to get up, then it got knocked down, just can't seem to continue. So going to mark it as such. General Motors, nice little pullback, bullish candle over here, likely to continue. So again, I'll just mark that. That's a nice little bullish setup there. JP Morgan Chase. Look, here's the thing. I would say that I'd expect this year to be attempts and failures, attempts and failures. That's what's going to make it different than in the past, I think. Look at this as well. You can see how crisp this level of resistance is. Bullish, right? But that's usually a bit of a bullish breakout kind of setup. So at some point, I still expect this to attempt to break out to the upside there. Look at that monthly. It just doesn't. You can see clearly just big move up here, runs out of steam, and it just can't get past that level. But everything else looks bullish. So let's see if they can get through that. Also, again, this looks good. I spoke about Adidas forming this bearish thing, candle here. Small sort of indecision-y kind of tiny candle break below that can often be a follow-through, but now it looks like it doesn't really want to do that. So wouldn't it be interesting if next week we get back here and everything has kind of reversed and gone the other way? Well, we're just going to have to deal with that because I think this year is going to be one of those years. But it's worthwhile commenting on. I think it would be worthwhile seeing how much of the time the technicals follow through. And even if I'd be surprised if they change every single week, but they should follow through most of the time. Look at this pullback and a nice little bullish setup there as well. Similarly here, this can often, usually if this is at the top of a move, it's referred to as a hanging man. The opposite of that is a gravestone doji. It's right at that level, strong level of resistance. And not a lot. Yeah, okay, well, we'll see if they can just push through. NVIDIA looking really nice and bullish, beautiful. So some failed attempts there, some exhaustion, and then it pushed through and carried on. That looks good. Actually, might as well kind of throw in the next level at some point here as well. Netflix has pulled back into it. I'd really like to see if we can get a bullish candle here. So I'm looking for a bullish weekly candle, but not yet. And it could come all the way back down to the previous highs before potentially doing that. PayPal trying to, this generally looks nice and bullish. We've got a nice higher low here, swing low. This is, I'm curious to see if this then takes it from there. There was an attempt to break out through this bearish line in the sand. Let's see if it can go for it again. So what I'm going to do now is kind of mark that and see if this then adjusts. to that, just take that away. Which is a little bit of a bullish setup here. Very curious, and this closed right near the high. Don't forget, we've got non-farm payroll on Friday, so be very interesting to see how that is going to change stuff. We've had a pullback here, so basically what's happened in this case is we've just come back to that. Nice little setup there. Bit of a double bottom and a bullish engulfing candle. And so also looks as though it's good to go. Spider. Just a mess in general. So this one is going a little bit too much sideways, back down below this. So it might do a move higher, but it doesn't look super strong. FedEx, it's amazing how it's just kind of tracking below this. This is potentially a bit of a bull flag. So it's lower highs, lower lows, but then if we break up above that bit of trend line, we should see it continue to the upside. Interesting on that one. And Tesla, let's have a look at that. Battling very much so with this recent level of exhaustion here at 208. Let's see if this one can recover, but it makes sense. If everything else gets a leg up, why wouldn't this one? Very nice bullish candle here on the Vanguard. That looks good. I mean, it looks messy on the monthly because it's clearly right at a level it's battling with, but the weeklies look good. So a real mixture there of kind of bullish signals combined with some battling in some areas here, but not looking as terrible as what I saw kind of last week. Bunt. Okay, so we've got here the 10-year T-note slowing down a little bit. That's pretty cool at a level here of support. So just mark that over there. And just kind of, you can see it's battling to turn around. We've got some bullish divergence still. This generally, for me, I'm not going to call any changes yet. I would see a continuation, any kind of pullbacks as continuation for now. So we had some moves there recently. You can see a bit of bullish divergence. We've got higher lows, even though we have lower lows here. So again, this hints at this at some point here, trying to turn around. I tell you what, for me, I'd love to see a bullish candle in this area. Any kind of a strong, really strong bullish weekly candle for me would be a strong hint that the market is likely going to reverse, but not anytime soon. Okay, cryptos took a knock to the downside. This is clearly a bit of a battleground for Bitcoin. Let's just mark that. That's going to be a battle line there. 24,000. It's still a little bit range bound on that monthly. I want to see if, again, I would expect that if we get a move up on equities, we'll see the same thing here. Ethereum, no different, just a mess, just hugely volatile. Not seeing much there. Solana, also the same. Cardano actually had a break to the downside here, so that doesn't look super awesome, but there's a possible level here of support versus resistance. Let's see if that's going to be the case, if it could stay above that. Binance as well. Oh, I was looking to see if we got a bit of a bounce off that because we had levels of support. We've fallen through it. We're still really, actually, it's funny, it just kind of redraw that, but we're still stuck at that. And that was actually that bounce there as well. So again, I'd like to see us break through that before we go any further. One thing I would say here is that equities last week performed better than cryptos did. And they've been generally kind of joined at the hips. Interesting to see that they were not necessarily joined at the hips this time around. So it's the splintering across the different asset classes to me is fascinating. It's not something you see too often under these types of conditions. I think we are living in interesting times, and I'm just kind of trying to mark this. These weekly videos become a little bit of a diary for me to say, oh, I saw this and I saw that. So interesting. Okay, I'm going to leave you with that. I think have a fantastic week. Don't forget, next week, Friday, I am speaking live in London at the London Trader Show. I'm running a masterclass. Let me kind of just bring up some of the content for you so you can see it. The only reason I do that is because that's never stuff I've put before. I've not put a lot of this stuff down onto paper, kind of how to create a bit of a day trading kind of a routine, talking about shifts in momentum. There's a lot of stuff about, trading on which time frame should you trade as a day trader? Where do you look for, where do you check your cues on direction, stop loss management in terms of that, profit taking management as well. What else we've got? We've got some kind of a nice little, really nice candle stuff that's relatively new. Context of the candles within the trend, shifting momentum. Here we've just obviously got some exclusive stuff that I've not shown before. We talk about momentum candles, breakout candles, because obviously you want to trade this, the goal of this, when to get into trends, when it's too late. We talk about double bottoms, head and shoulders. There's some really nice price action stuff on these signals. Support obviously holding up certain areas where those opportunities lie. Risk to reward setups, kind of targeting that type of thing. very nice using MACD as well for sort of strong setups there. There's trader mindset stuff. Sorry, all the slides here are looking at raw stuff while it's currently getting cleaned up by a very talented designer, I'm sure. A lot of recommended reading, certain books, and obviously running through the markets, looking at live trading examples to see kind of what would you be doing next, how would you manage the trades. And it's mostly focused really almost purely on price action. And that's why I'm very excited about it, because a lot of it is targeting 3-to-1s with the trend. Day trading stuff, it's transferable. A lot of that's transferable to the higher time frames, applicable in different markets. And I've not ever really kind of put it down before. So I'm very excited to see. I hope those of you who are attending enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed putting it all together. And I will, as I said, be completely at your disposal. So again, if you're still interested, or if you've only just heard about it now, I will put the link for the registration. I don't know how many have registered already. I don't know that. I haven't had any figures back yet, but we'll see. And if you are and you want to attend, it's effectively will be throughout the day. In London in Hammersmith. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gents. Have a great week.